партнеру было бы комфортнее. So I can, yeah, let us start the session. Okay. So I hope that everyone is clear how to turn on the Russian translation. Just put the click on the Globus logo and just choose the language. Okay, so yes, Arsalan, hi again. Okay, we're ready, right?
Hi.
Okay.
Sure.
You will not have a presentation, right? Just
no, I will not have a presentation. We're just going to just talk about in general. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. So basically, Dinar already said what will be the subject that we're gonna would love to hear your experience, your background, especially as an investor, especially as a professional from the venture capital world, to hear your story, to hear the stories of your the funds that you built, and also since we have mostly the youth at the audience, it's like the startups, the beginners, the beginning entrepreneurs, I would say, and some of them, as we know from the registrations, there are current entrepreneurs who are already running the business. Not sure how innovative IT something or traditional, but doesn't matter. Yeah, just to give some hints, instruments, what it means to make the startup, how to build the startups, and basically what is the point and how to find funding.
Okay. Ну, вот сфотографировать, наверное, вот эту презентацию вбей.
Так, я кого-то слышу. Сори, друзья. Да, можно попросить отключить звук? Динара, это у тебя, да? Sorry. Okay. Yeah. Please turn off your microphones, dear.
Сейчас спикер включен микрофон.
Алим, у тебя отключен микрофон.
Sorry. Так. Do you hear me now?
Да, слышно.
Yes.
Someone actually turned off my microphone. Sorry. Yeah, the organizer.
Host.
Yeah. So yeah, sorry. So yeah, the mechanics will be like this, the program. So at first, I will be happy to give a chance to Arsalan to talk more about what we just announced. After that, I would love to ask some questions, but I would love to invite everyone to be more proactive and to take this chance to ask as much as you can from Arsalan, since Arsalan has a lot of experience in funding, and especially he worked a lot in different markets. So yeah, let's start. Arsalan, the stage is yours. The virtual stage is yours, so we can. Yeah, thanks.
Well, thank you, Ali, for the introductions, and thank you everybody to participate in this session, especially to MOST for organizing these events. So let me just kind of briefly start by talking about myself and how did I get to this level as a venture capitalist. Basically, I was, I was raised in the U.S. And when I first started joined the workforce, I was working for a central bank, like Federal Reserve Bank in the U.S. Then, like most younger generation, that I got bored and I decided to work for a startup company myself. So I have been to the other side of the fence, that looking for funding. So my first startup was a semiconductor company based in Boston. Our product was making a photo sensor, basically used in the satellites in space, and we did a joint venture with the Chinese government back then. So it was an interesting product, and we had many success in terms of testing the products. And the problem was like most young entrepreneurs, we focused a lot on developing the products and did not really think about the funding needed for marketing. So we developed a very good product and with a low cost and the most markets provided. But at that time, we did not have enough funding to do marketing, even though we have good products. So that was a lesson learned, that while I was building the product, we were building a product, we did not actively try to raise money, and our burn rate was much higher than our original seed money. So that venture lasted only about 2 years, and that was a big lesson learned. Then after that, I decided to go back to graduate school, then finish the school afterward, because that was the other option for young entrepreneurs, that if you fail in your venture, you always have the option to go back to school and start over again. So that's what I did, got my MBA and things like that, and then eventually joined Credit Suisse as an investment banker in the tech sector. And in my position, that I had the opportunity to work with many early stage or even later stage company who want to take the company for IPO in the Silicon Valley. So that was interesting for me as a young banker to work with a lot of seasoned engineers who want to make it different in the world by making different products, and I was able to help them to do that. That was back in the late 90s, and internet's boom came again. So my entrepreneurial spirits again want to do something more, not just being a banker, not just being a financer. So I jumped again to work for an internet e-commerce company, focusing on providing e-commerce to minority segment of the markets in the U.S. It was interesting that I never learned about, I didn't know much about about e-commerce. I was the CFO for the company, was based in Virginia, and that part it was about internet. Everybody's talking about internet e-commerce, and almost every financial institution has a VC company and VC funds and here and there. Even the lawyer that we use that did not even ask us for money, they say, can we have some shares of the company? So it was interesting stage of the history that where internet was first being able to commercialize to some extent in the late 90s. And almost every company, if you have the word internet in your business proposal, you get funding. And the thing is that there was so much money that there were so many startups focusing on internet, and the problem with that is that only few survive, and only few survive if they have a good business model. Amazon at that time was one of the top least known company, but it survived longer than most e-commerce company. Again, my company did not survive because just too competitive. Everybody was into e-commerce, and but that did not stop me from doing my third try, which is working with another group of entrepreneurs. But this time I got smarter because I actually selecting a good team, not just focusing on products or industry, but I actually look at the team, the composition of the team that's going to do this work, and also who are the backer, which like the smart investors. The company that my third company was with this company called Illuminant. We focus on passive optical switch using in the optical telecommunications industry. So it was very interesting that our corporate investors was a Japanese company called NEC. I don't know if you know about this company. It's not very commercially, not very well known, but it's really well known in Japan. It's called Nippon Electric Company. So this particular multinational in Japan was able to back us up, provide us the funding, and also provide us the markets that we needed to allow us to sell the products to their other customers. And because of that, this company became very successful. Then later we were able to sell our products to different communication giants like AT&T, Bell Atlantic, and all these traditional telecommunication company that we're able to get because of our relationship, because our investors, they have the network to help us to market our products. So that's what I learned from the third venture, is that not only you have to pick a good team, but you also need to pick a good investors who are able to help you in the long run, and this will help you to accelerate your venture further. But at the end of the day, that we decided to sell the company because there was so much competition going on in the markets, and it happened to just be one or two company really looking at pure acquisition of a company. But before that, I was able to raise like $23 million from different venture capitalists and also from different banks as well. So we were able to exit with some profits, but not at the level of today's unicorn level, because when people talk about exit today, they really think about that you're able to generate the return like some of the unicorns like eBay, Uber, and all other giants. But in reality, in most cases, you don't really exit with that kind of profits in most cases, but you're still able to exit with some decent amounts of profits for any entrepreneurs to start another venture, or simply just to use the money to invest in other companies. So the myth back then, I mean, the myth of having a lot of return for every startup is not correct, because there are many successful startups. They might not have like 1,000% return, or they may just have like 50% returns or 100% return, and that's considered a success to some extent, because you have to realize a lot of early stage companies, they don't end up to be successful. They actually end up to fail. So to even have 100% or 200% return is pretty decent for some investors, basically. But yeah, there'll be time that some people will have a very, very successful a few companies that are really doing well, but not all the cases. So after I sold my third ventures, then opportunity came up for me to think about what I want to do. Instead of stay in the US to continue to do what I'm doing, or to look for other interesting opportunity. So the World Bank IFC came up to me because my desire to work beyond the US and also opportunity for me to actually work with institutions like the World Bank and IFC to help them to develop a VC ecosystem in the developing countries, and I thought it was kind of interesting and kind of interesting challenge, because in the US, where in the US is very developed in terms of financing, capital markets, and also regulations to support early stage company and even support VC. It's already there, but there are opportunities and also challenges in other part of the world. And that need to be served, basically. And that period of time is when all this what do you say, all the Indians, Chinese students, they decide to go back to the US, go back to the home countries. Yeah, they decide to go back to the countries and India to really jumpstart the venture environment in those countries, and that's when India start picking up and China start picking up, because all these return expats back to the countries. So for me, I joined IFC, International Finance Corporation. I don't know if people are familiar with this particular institution. Basically, our job was to provide risk capital to developing country. At that time, I was stationed in. I was offered to work in South Asia, focusing on countries like Bangladesh and Bhutan and Nepal, and also to some extent, I also work in Palestine and Afghanistan, basically. My task is to set up SME venture funds in those countries to focus on investing in not just early stage, but also focusing on investing in traditional SMEs, small medium-sized enterprises. So in Bangladesh, I set up a fund to about 10 or 20 million fund to focus on smaller companies by providing equity, and also to provide some kind of debts as well. Even Nepal, I also set a fund over there too. So the problem with those countries is that regulations was not well defined for venture investment, and that's almost the same case here as well. That VC funding is at the early stage. So, but back in the early 2010, that's when I was in Bangladesh, basically to help them to set the regulations for alternative investment like venture capital. At the same time, to set the fund to actively invest. So our fund was one of the first funds being set up in countries like Bangladesh and also in Nepal to invest in small size early stage companies. I invest in renewable energy companies as well as software company, but at the same time, I also invest in traditional battery company and fish farming as well, because it was very difficult for us to just focus on tech, because at that time it was not so easy. There weren't that many tech companies to invest, and given the amounts of money we have, our responsibility for the investor is to disperse and to find good investment. So we basically diversify our portfolio, not just invest in technology, but we also invest in the traditional industry as well. So we have fun in Nepal and also in Bangladesh, and my colleagues in the same program also focusing on Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Congo. Extremely challenging environment, extremely challenging markets, but at the end we had actually generated good return and exits from some of the investment we made. Then after that, I moved to Middle East, Kuwait, working with the World Bank to help a country like Kuwait, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia to set up venture funds and also to build the ecosystem there. And the reason all these government want to do this because similar to Kazakhstan, they are very much oil dependent type of economies. That a lot of government really were afraid that what if oil price drop just like today? What if no one really wants to buy oil and gas anymore? What's going to happen to the economy? Because many of these economies are a single commodity type economy. They depend very much on oil and gas, and also most of the young entrepreneurs. I mean, most of the youth in those countries really depends on government job for income. So very few youth want to become entrepreneurs. So this country like Kuwait and Qatar, even UAE itself, really want to set up a program to encourage young people to start their own business. So that was my job, basically, to work with government to set the right ecosystem for them to invest. I mean, for young people to start their own company in those countries. But it was very challenging because the mentality of young people are very different from the mentality of the people in South Asia, and you require a generations of mind changing, and some of them are very successful. Some of them that simply did not have the aspiration to be entrepreneurs. Because one thing I learned about being an entrepreneur is not just about the money. It's also about your aspiration, wanted to do well. Beside, if you don't have the aspiration and the environment and the will to do good thing, then it's very hard to be entrepreneurs because there's a lot of ups and downs throughout the life cycle of your company. So that was my experience in Middle East. Then we moved to Central Asia to start this fund called Central Asia Impact Fund. Central Asian Impact Fund basically it's managed by our outfits here in Washington D.C. called AV Ventures. That's where I work for, and with our subsidiary called AV Frontiers based in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan. But I myself based here in Almaty. It's the fund itself is more like an impact fund. I don't know if you guys are familiar with impact fund. Basically, the impact fund's thesis is a bit beyond just focusing on the profit side, but also focusing on things like job creation, gender equality, environment. So a lot of investment that we are looking at in Central Asia is very much focused on those things. And there are some. So basically, we just set this outfit up, but unfortunately, the pandemic hit, so I couldn't travel most of the time to see some of the investment that we want to make, and that create an issue for us in terms of looking for investment. But back to the subject about the type of investment that we were looking for, basically is looking for a different project, different kind of company, but at different stage. And the thing that we learned about investing in Central Asia is that different countries, they have different type of company that we can invest. For example, in Kazakhstan, mostly probably related to technology. But in countries like Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and Tajikistan, maybe they are more traditional type of investment that we make. And because they are different type of investment we make, then therefore we use different type of instruments that we use. We can use quasi-equity, it's like or pure equity investment. That's mainly for technology company, basically. So far, we have set a fund to do that right now, but we are still looking for investment. We have not yet made any investment in Central Asia yet. Like I said, partially because we are not able to do due diligence to go see the investment ourselves. So I think as the lockdown has been lifted, it'll be a lot easier for us to go see some of the investment. So basically that's where I came from in terms of all the country I traveled to, and also my background and my experience, and also my aspiration right now is to look for a good investment to make. For some of our audience, the early stage companies, entrepreneurs, basically is that, for people like us, we are looking for good people, a good team. It's not necessarily in terms of technical skills, but also good attitude and good emotional intelligence. Because in many cases, a lot of entrepreneurs that are not coachable, which I meant not coachable means that they don't listen well. But product itself, the prototype model is it will change throughout the business cycle of the business itself. So you may have one prototype, but you will evolve eventually to some extent. But the early stage company here in the developing country, or this developed country, is very different from the early stage company in the US or in Europe. Partially because that in those countries, like in the US, there are many funding opportunities. There are more VC there than the other countries. So a lot of early stage company can be a pure startup, means that they can actually have a company based on ideas and concept, and without thinking about revenue, because there will always be someone. If it's a good idea, there'll be always someone, the angel investor or VC, can finance your ventures. But here in countries like South Asia and Central Asia, you cannot do that because most companies cannot survive by focusing on pure concept, because there are not enough venture capitalists and also angel investor here to help you to finance your entire ideas to prototype. So in most cases, I would assume that many early stage companies here do have other revenue stream to provide supplemental income to the company itself. Where so it's very different from the early stage company in the U.S. In some way, it's kind of remind me of companies in Taiwan. Like many of the computer companies like Acer Computer or Foxconn, they all start their business or ventures not by building the computer, but by building the components of the computer. Or to some extent, they're also making calculator as a way to earn additional revenue while they try to pursue their dream of making a personal computer. So in countries like Taiwan in the early days, that there were no VC, no angel investors, and they are mostly self-funded venture. They do need to have some kind of revenue come in to help them. So my take on this basically is that there are some company here that may be interesting, but they also have some other revenues generating business activity, which is very different from the one in US. And it's something I like about here too. So I like the fact that many of the business that we're looking at not just focus on their pure products, but they also have some revenue stream to support the business because there's simply not enough funding here. So that's just my observation from that perspective. So I'm very glad I'm able to come to this forum to be able to share some of my experience and also to talk about the thing that I'm looking at right now, and hopefully that we are able to find some good investment in Central Asia, and because of that, we are hoping that we can help to demonstrate there are viable ecosystem here to breed good early stage company or good companies here, and eventually that will help to attract more money here to this region basically, and to help diversify the economy, not to depend solely on oil and gas, or not solely depends on agriculture, and to be able to help young entrepreneurs or youth to find a different industry where they can actually contribute positively. So that's kind of a mission here in Central Asia. So Aline, I think that's about it. I think I can, if anything else, I can just open up for Q&A.
Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. My connection on the laptop is just crashing, so I connected through the phone. But yeah, I was glad to hear the most thing. Thanks a lot, Arsalan. Yeah, I have a few questions, but before I do that, it was a great kind of, I would say, the short overview of a lot of things that you did, a lot of countries that you visited, and actually a lot of things that you have as a plan for the Central Asia, which is pretty good. But before doing that, I would love to say to all participants, we have a great group of people. I see familiar names here, which is great, and especially the names are not just from Kazakhstan, from Central Asia, which is always also great. Feel free to put your questions into the chat box so we can see them, and basically I can ask Arsalan. This is one option, or the second one, maybe you are driving but you are still listening to us. You can turn off the mute and basically say it loud. So yeah, great overview, Arsalan, again. So I get a question, basically, let's put it more on the Central Asia base. Since you are here, you're looking for the startups. Basically, it was one of my questions that you already covered. Why and how we're different? I mean, what is going on with the entrepreneurs, with their ideas here in Central Asia? Is it different from somewhere there? But since you somehow covered it, here's a question, maybe just kind of from international perspective. There is opinion that we as a country, or the countries from Central Asia, should find something focused as an industry and just work on it, like not trying to be industry agnostic. You know, that I assume you met so many ed tech, health tech, agro tech, different projects our entrepreneurs try to build. So the one side says that it's better to find one or two verticals and work on that. So the government should say it loud, or just try it as most as you can. So it's much better chances to find the partnerships or funding like from the funds like you. So what do you think in general, what the countries like in Central Asia should do?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting because the thing I see about Central Asia is a combination of, what do you say, this Middle East and South Asia. What I meant by that is not because of mentality-wise, it's simply because the market itself. Because when I work in South Asia, the concept of the worry about not enough markets is never there, because look at Bangladesh has 150 million people. So they don't have to think about exporting at all. Whatever they make or they produce, they can cater to the country. Pakistan as well, 200 million people. India, forget about it, it's 1.2 billion people. So the product itself, they don't have to think about exporting to other countries or neighboring country whatsoever, because the e-commerce itself in Bangladesh can survive without going other countries. But can we do the same thing here in Central Asia? Probably not. So the thing is that because the population here is so small compared to those countries. So the thing is that, so therefore, when entrepreneurs need to think about is that what kind of product you need to make to be able to go beyond Kazakhstan. Yeah, I met a few entrepreneurs. They actually think about that. You know, they want to do well in Kazakhstan, so they want to go to Southeast Asia basically. So that's usually the second move. Once they establish themselves, and they are thinking about going to next popular country, which Indonesia, Vietnam, and Thailand, and so on, because that's the only way they can survive. And that you have the same problem with many entrepreneurs in the Middle East, say Kuwait and the UAE. They all have the same problem because their population is so small. Like Kuwait itself has 3 million people. UAE, I don't know if you count the local people, maybe 1 or 2 million people. Everybody else are expats. So they also have the same issue, except the thing is that the government themselves really providing a program where they can absorb some of the provide opportunities for entrepreneurs to test their products with the government agency. In Qatar, particularly, that what we did was that we encouraged partnership between the government agency and with the local entrepreneurs, because many of these government, they tend to buy their products and services abroad in any way. So why not buying product and services from local entrepreneurs to help them to jumpstart? So I think this is one thing that I think that maybe your government in Kazakhstan try to do, but I think it need to be done in the more integrated fashion, where the government has opportunity, they need to share with the local entrepreneurs. UAE had this website called Tijarib.com. Basically, is to advertise all the government service, providing opportunities for local entrepreneurs to participate and give them some kind of incentive as well. So I think maybe the government here need to do that too, to have a better integrated system to help out with the local entrepreneurs. And maybe the way it is, I don't know. I'm still new here. And then once that being defined, and once the product been defined or perfected to some extent, then the entrepreneur can seek for different markets in different countries whether that is Russia or other Russian-speaking countries, or they simply just want to go for the bigger, the best, Indonesia. It's up to them. So that, and I encourage entrepreneurs to think like that too, because at the end of the day, the market here in Kazakhstan might be too small for many of the products. But if you can do well locally, try out and do it. But when you do venture out to the country, you do need to consider all the different scenario that how you go support your products and service. Make sure the quality is the same, things like that. I don't know if I answer your question or not.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think there are different scenarios how to answer the questions, but it's good that you provided some cases. So my second one is kind of connected as a continuation of that. Like you said, again, there are two sides. I know that someone says, entrepreneurs is always, or investors, it's always good to have the local traction and after that to go to somewhere else. Or others says, there's no actually kind of a time for entrepreneurs. You have to be quick. If you feel that, or maybe you kind of make some market research and you think that Indonesia will accept your product somehow, it's much better not to waste your time. Just go there and try it out, even if you're from Kazakhstan or Central Asia. What do you think? What you observed?
That makes sense. From my perspective, there are two views I'm going to present. One is from the Central Asia Impact Fund, the fund I'm representing, that we encourage young entrepreneurs to stay in their home country. And the reason is because we want them to, there are too many brain drain in this region. Means that a lot of good young people, smart people, they tend to leave the country and not stay in the country. To us, it's devastating to the economy. If I can keep more people, young smart people, Kazakh youth, to stay in their own country and to start companies here, as opposed to going to Russia and other countries. For us as a fund, that hit the impacts that we want to hit. If I can reduce the number of young Kyrgyz or Tajik to leave the country and stay in their own country to create some kind of income, then in the long run, that will help the economy. You see, for a country like Kyrgyzstan, the 60% of the GDP is from outside, right? So that is not a healthy scenario. If pandemics such as this right now we are experiencing, they are not able to send money home, that will put the country in a more devastating situation. So that's speaking from my perspective as a fund manager for Central Impact Fund, the mission and goal that we try to do. Now, my other personal view is that, okay, fine. If you find a market in Indonesia that's willing to accept your product faster in Kazakhstan, please go. You should do that, because as entrepreneurs, it's your success depends on how good you are in terms of executing your business. If you feel like you don't do well in the local markets and can do very well in other country, I think that makes sense from entrepreneurs' perspective, because I personally have a company based in Malaysia, but the thing is that we focus a lot on remittance and e-commerce. But things that our bigger market is actually in Indonesia. So our team is much bigger in Indonesia because it's a bigger market compared to Malaysia. And the thing is that once we did well in Indonesia, then we come back and look at Malaysia and say, okay, let's go back to Malaysia and try to export our own domestic market again. So, and also look at Singapore again. So in business, it's really looking for opportunities where you think you can do well. That is a more individual view as opposed to other view. So as entrepreneurs, basically you look for any other business. But from fund perspective, from the fund I represent, it doesn't make sense for us to finance that kind of venture. That a local decide to go out of the country and and to do business there. So you have to understand each funds, they tend to have different mission and thesis, and some of them might not related to you, because I can tell you there are many businesses that like to invest in Kazakhstan, not because they are bad, it's because they don't meet our KPIs as a fund, but there are other funds might be able to help out. So I tend to refer them to someone else that because our fiduciary responsibility is for investor. This is what they want to see. This is what they want, especially donor, right? Donor want to, they don't like, us to invest in companies outside the country, even though it's managed by entrepreneurs from Kazakhstan. But there are other funds, they don't care about that part. They care about, okay, if the business is doing well, it can be here in Kazakhstan, it can be outside Kazakhstan. So entrepreneurs need to see and to make sure that the investors themselves are able to meet their criteria. If not, then we might not be the right fits to be your investors. That's one thing. The second thing is that if entrepreneurs want to work outside Kazakhstan, make sure the investors also understand the market outside Kazakhstan, because you really want smart money that can help you to expand beyond Kazakhstan, like Indonesia. If you want to go to Indonesia, make sure that the investor that can help you to get contacts there. For example, if you want me to help you with Indonesia, yes, I can help you on a personal level, but the fund itself cannot do that. That's why. So entrepreneurs need to be mindful when they approach the investors. I hope I answer your questions.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so let's take an example of your fund. So the startup applies to you. Somehow you say that it applies to your impact criteria.
Yeah.
You're to invest. What will be the relationship between the fund and the business when you invest? What kind of, I don't know, support you provide, consulting, or what will be the kind of, what will happen?
Okay. Yeah. So basically, in my fund basically is that we not just invest in the. It depends on the type of investment. Of course, it can be equity or it can be quasi-equity, right? On top of that, then we depends on the industry itself. We can provide technical assistance either from our end, or we help you to look for consultants or people who are able to provide the TAs not needed for you to expand, whether or not it's about marketing or whether or not about Q&A, quality control for manufacturing. And because our relationship with other donors, the Japanese and also with the Swiss, the Japanese donor basically say we can help manufacturing company to improve the quality assurance process, because Japan is very good at QA. So they are able to help the company here if they want to go to manufacture. They can look at the QA process, make sure the product is meeting the international standard. And also European financer, European donor, they also have their own certain criteria. If you in the agriculture sector and want to export to Europe, you need to meet certain requirement as well. And that way it can help to connect you with the right people to finance that part in terms of TA. So it depends on the industry itself as well to get some kind of technical assistance. Then do the network that we can tap into to make sure that the investment that we are making not only grow domestically but also grow internationally. Basically, at the end of the day, that we want the company to be able to earn foreign currency because that's good for the economy as well, and also good for the company itself.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. There's a question in the chat. It's good that we have these funds on our market when you're looking for the startups, for the entrepreneurs. I think it's a great chance for our local teams to get funded. But since you worked in so many countries, you have this international helicopter view, I would say. There's a kind of a trendy thing happening currently that other funds also come into the Central Asian market. They're looking for the startups. They're coming from Europe, even one fund with the co-founders from Brazil, and so on and so on. Maybe you partially covered this in your speech, but anyway, why Central Asia might be interesting for venture funds? Since there's no kind of a success story yet, no unicorns or others. So why, even there's a great term, tech frontier, they call it like this.
Mhm.
So why it's interesting?
I think interesting for us, from my perspective, is that there have not been enough venture funds here in Central Asia. I guess it's more like an area where this kind of capital is needed the most at this point, because it's very interesting how you put it in that perspective, because I think from a historical perspective that this region has been largely ignored by many investors, but the investors are start noticing Central Asia because of a lot of political changes. It's happening here in this area. I mean, especially in Uzbekistan, with the government being opened up, and good populations. So and also it's because of post-Soviet Union time as well that a lot of investors start warming up their interest in these regions. That the government has become more progressive to some extent, and the environment has become much better for some investor. And for me, that's why we are here, is because that we see there's a possibility of making changes. Other part of the world, they are already moving forward, especially in South Asia. They are much more advanced in terms of VC funding. Obviously, it's not up to the extent as developing country, but they are moving forward. So for me personally, I see Central Asia has not moving to that direction yet. It's moving toward that direction, and because the political environment is also supporting the reform and progress. So we thought it'd be a good time for us to get involved at this point. Make sense?
Yeah. So kind of multi-criteria thing, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because that's how I see it personally. That the political scenario is much better now from our perspective, and because as an external investor, I know most the entrepreneurs, they don't like to hear this when I say this, is that international investors, they do their own calculation on the political risk, right? And that can be 10%, that can be 50%, So for them to get involved in country that they perceive as has higher political risk, they need to have higher return. So for international investors to come to Central Asia, they will say, is there any what is the political risk of getting involved in Central Asia? If a government is moving, if the governments are moving toward the right direction, the political risk is reducing, right? So therefore, you can attract more investors to come here to do that. But for me, I don't see political risk as a big issue, because I'm so used to work in the field that I understand the risk. They also understand the return as well. But for many institutional investors, they really view a lot of markets from their desktop. They see the number come out. What is the political risk for each country? And based on that, they make decisions. And they are less sensitive about other things compared to people like us who work in the field in most of our career. That we see this just another, it's just natural for us to deal with issues. So to answer the question, yeah, the political environment has improved in Central Asia. and also the population of Central Asia has moved into there are more youth population now than older populations. So that create an opportunity for countries like Central Asia, Middle East, because the youth population has much higher percentage compared to developed country. I'm not talking about US. You look at Europe, you look at Japan. You know, they literally there's no growth because they don't have young people. You know, when there's no young people, there's no growth. So that's what's happening in those countries. So youth create a good opportunities for us, basically. Yeah.
Okay. So political situation, the youth, yeah, and the population ready for the change. Okay, cool. Since we have entrepreneurs here, actually, I would love to I would love to the audience to be more active, since I don't want to make a what it means that we have a dialogue with Arsalan. That's it. So, yeah.
You're hogging the microphone, Alim.
Okay.
Let other people speak.
Yeah. So maybe I will keep silent. Maybe anyone wants to turn on the microphone and ask the question. You can ask in Russian. It's okay, and I can translate. Since you never know when you have a chance to meet the real VC. Okay, guys, any questions? Since I usually have a lot of questions, even we meet Arsalan pretty often, I would say. So here's, sorry.
Okay, I can
it's
ask.
Comfortable to do it on the phone, but yeah. Okay, Dinar is actually.
I've got the question and raised my hand.
Okay, cool. Vladimir, yes?
Yeah, definitely. You know, I'm very, how to say, unhappy with VCs, and I think that they are like bankers who bring you the umbrella when it's very sunny weather and remove it when it's very rainy weather. Okay, and I fan of cockroaches, you know, not a pumped unicorns, but mostly cockroaches who get money from real customers, not from VCs. And I know that there are such situations where it's impossible to grow without venture investment. But in many cases, funding is not mandatory, is not required, and you could go without it. Okay, what's your opinion about it? Like, sell yourself.
I think for entrepreneurs who can bootstrap themselves to run the business, like I say, I was an entrepreneur myself, so I understand your perspective. That if you can finance your way through your growth stage, then without any additional money coming in, then that's great, because you don't lose the equity of your company. But at a certain stage, that there are only so much you can grow by yourself, then you need to have external financing, whether or not it's from the bank or whether or not it's from a venture capitalist. It really depends on the type of company that you are creating. If you have a tech company, chances are you probably need VC money, because you probably at the growth stage where you do not want to worry about paying interest payments. But you do want to have a good partner who can help you to grow the company. So, or you prefer not to give out equity, then you can always work with a bank, just borrow some money and pay some interest payment, and keep growing your company. So my suggestion is that why take other people's money when you don't need to, and to be able to grow, and to some extent, then maybe at a later stage you want to get funding from VC, you can always do that. But the point is that you want to give yourself enough options to do things like to do what you want to do, not to be forced to do things that you don't want to do. And and it's true sometimes that that VC venture capitalists, that their only job is to make profits. So they might not like what you're doing based on your strategy or direction. They might not want to keep you to, or if they own a big percentage of your company. So as an entrepreneur, you need to be very careful who you select as your partner. So that's how I see it. So if you can use your money to grow your company, you should do that. You should not borrow any more money. You should not get money from other people. But if you do need to borrow or need to get funding from VC, you just have to be careful who is your partner. Not everybody's the same.
Anyone wants to? Someone's microphone is okay. Thanks. Let me read it from the chat. Okay, here's a question. I'm not sure if Vladimir, you wrote also the question in the chat, but I assume this is what the same, right?
Is that a
Kind of comment.
Okay, cool. So here's another one. Okay, our teams guys are so many questions. Okay.
Нет, это не наш. Вот инкубатор-менеджер, это не наши ребята. Вот поэтому можно вопрос зачитать про инвестиции венчурные и почему в ЦИАНе заходят.
The most active co-organized. Okay. Here's a question. Let me look at the beginning, but we somehow covered. It was a question of why.
Yeah, I mean, the small money scenario is it's a problem not just in Kazakhstan, but it's in other countries as well.
Yeah, the VC market isn't. Here's one. Okay, here's a question: how the VC funds work? I mean, how they work? The VC fund where you participated in, are they taking the equity, or the model is based on the dividends?
Okay. Yeah. For us, I'm talking from the fund perspective. For us, the money can be both. One is for equity investment. It depends on the type of. It depends on the industry and the growth of the company. For example, I do both equity and also debt. Okay. So there are companies that already in so much debt that I cannot issue debt to the company. That can only do equity. So that's a scenario sometimes I had to go through, is to balance between the asset to debt ratio and asset to equity ratio. So if a company, like say for example, if a school, I'm just talking about school that has a lot of capital expenditure, they borrow a lot of money from bank and things like that, and they say they want to borrow money from us, I would definitely say no, because I say you have a debt to asset ratio up to 90%. I cannot do any more debts. I can only do equity investment. That's one thing. So it all depends the type of company that we are working with based on different industry. For technology companies, mostly equity, because most technology companies, they are at the growth stage, which means that they don't really have how do you call this? They don't have a stable income coming in to help them to make interest payment and so on and so on. And as a management, then that create a problem for them to be able to make those payments. So for technology company, we tend to look at the possibility of making equity investment. But the problem is that we have to make sure that we don't become a majority shareholder of the company, because sometimes there are companies that are looking for funding. They say $200,000. And they haven't gone through the valuations. and they tend to think that the value of the company is much higher than what we're expecting it. So there's a lot of negotiation between us and the entrepreneurs to decide the value of the company, and based on that, then we invest. From our fund perspective, we don't want to own more than 25% of the equity of the company, because we do not want to take away the incentive of the entrepreneur to work for themselves. Because once you own like 50% or 51%, there's no ownership incentive for entrepreneurs to do that. That's just my style. But there are other VC funds or angel investors. They will say we want to own like 45% or 51%, and they are companies that they are found like that because they want full control of the entrepreneur's company. So because they believe that if they don't have full control of the company, then they are not able to tell the management what to do. So they are venture capitalists that think like that they want to have full control of the company and pay the entrepreneur salary. They do that. So it depends on the entrepreneurs and also depends on the VC. Personally, I don't do that, but there are other VC they do that. Okay.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. Next question from the audience. Yeah, it's kind of pretty relevant. How to raise the volume, the amount of smart money in Kazakhstan, I would say, maybe in Central Asia also, since there's a lot of, I would say, cash in the country, but not so smart money. What do you think?
Money. It all depends on what kind of industry that you're in. There are venture capitalists understood, for example, technology. There are venture capital they simply don't understand. If you don't see smart money in the country, but you are able to get, if you get able to go to different conferences, attend different investment events, and meet different kind of VC, you should do that. But keep in mind that because country like many countries that they simply don't have enough experienced venture capitalists to do this kind of work. But that does not mean that there's not enough VC out there. And I don't want to burst your bubble, but the thing is that in Kazakhstan, it's still in the process of creating this kind of ecosystem to bring smart investors to the country, and also to encourage more venture capitalists to come to the country as well. So that is a problem here right now, is to be able to identify a smart money investor at this point. Very few, and only time can tell. I other than just tell you to attend different conferences within the region or outside to present yourself to other investors internationally. I don't know how to find smart money here, a smart investor here. There are only few, and I like to say I'm one of them, that I understand the market, but there are very few smart investor here, smart money investor.
Okay. I would love to just add some kind of comments. There was one of the things that in order to raise the level of even smart money, yes, as I agree with Arsalan, there's somehow the education part, I think. So the different school of investors, the community things where the experienced investors meet the early stage, I would say, investors, and they make the structured syndicate deals. It's one of the ways to raise this level. Okay, thanks. The second question is, any unicorns or any startup became the unicorn from the funds, or any initiatives you were part of? Any examples?
No, there? I don't think so. Yeah, for our funds, we have not done any gigantic unicorns because simply because the scale and the capacity of the business was not able to reach the level. So for us, we have not generated any unicorn at this point. But there are some successful exits. You know, like I say, that most venture capitalists will be happy to have few good exits, even they are not unicorn, but they are good business that we can exit from. And yes, in the US there are quite a few. When I was working in US as an IP investor, the thing is that there's a trade secrets that we do as investment banker in the US is that we tend to exaggerate a lot of IPOs, and a lot of investors tend to buy into that. And because because we are what we call, we are seller side of investment banker, we tend to elaborate and increase we tend to be too optimistic, and in many scenarios, therefore we create a lot of so-called unicorns, but many of these unicorns, they tend to die after they went through IPO, or the stock crash. Quite, you know, you could tell. So for people, they are companies that are very sustainable, like even Amazon did not generate positive profit for 10 years. So whether or not you can call that unicorn or not, or simply the fittest to survive. Basically, Amazon survived enough that everybody else died, and therefore it dominated the market. So when Amazon first came out, it was not exactly a unicorn compared to what they are today. Is that they really eliminate a lot of competitors in the process. Even Uber today, you see unicorn. It has gone through up and down. Yeah, it generates a lot of profit for a lot of companies, but itself it has not generated enough profits. So I don't think unicorn is the right goal for any company. For a country in Kazakhstan, you need to make sure you make sure that the company that for myself, make sure the company I invest is sustainable throughout, not just have a very good year one day and a bad year next year, basically. So for me, I don't look for unicorn. I look for business that can be sustainable for a long time.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks. Another question here. Is it okay to sell or to give an equity more than 51%? And yeah.
It's really up to the entrepreneurs. For me, if I build a business, why do I want to sell my shares? I mean, it all depends on a different stage. If you at a really early stage, you know, angel investor might ask for 30%, right? But if you give away so much, then how much more you're gonna give away in Series A and Series B and Series C? Then you might end up just having 10% of the company at the end of the day, right? So you have to be very careful not to be overly generous to give away your equity to any company, to any investor, and for me, I would resist giving so much at the early stage of the growth of the company, because at some points at the later stage of the company, if a company grows to some extent and I still earn about 10, I still have 20% control shares of the company, I'll be happy. But not at the beginning. You should not give away so much at the beginning of your ventures. Otherwise, you might end up having nothing at the end of the day. And in many cases, I had the entrepreneurs were removed from the company because the investors simply did not like the way the entrepreneur managed the company, and I have a friend in Pakistan did exactly. I have a friend in Pakistan had actually exactly the same experience. Is that as a young entrepreneur, he basically was so eager to grow the company, he didn't care about how many shares you own. At the end of the day, the board decided to remove him because they didn't think he was mature enough to manage the company, and that's a problem. Sometimes entrepreneur can grow with the company to become seasoned managers. Sometimes entrepreneur couldn't. At the end of the day, that they need to have some seasoned manager to come and take over the company. Even Google itself, the two founders did not stay on to be the senior manager, and they hire external managers to come. But if you own less than 5% or 10%, you basically become. I mean, yeah, you still own quite a bit, but I'm just telling you that you become a minority shareholder, and the board or director will decide how they want to manage your company, and you kind of lose that control to some extent. Maybe you like that, you're okay with that, but most entrepreneurs I know, they don't like to lose control so quickly at the beginning of the company.
Yeah, I think it's one of the questions of the discussion, negotiation, and basically finding the right investor, right? If the investor asks for 51 or more, I think it's a big question to think of. Would love to proceed with him, right, or not? Okay, thanks a lot.
I mean,
yeah.
Let me follow up the answer. The response to that is that people ask about smart money versus passive. If you have a smart investor, and the person owns about 51%, he or she are more likely to remove you when they don't like the way you run business, because they are very active. They know what they're doing. So there's a coin of two. The same coin has two sides. You want smart investor, which means they are more active. They engage with you. But if you are not moving to the same direction, or at least from their perspective, the wrong direction, then there's a bigger chance for them to remove you in the future than having a passive investor. But again, a passive investor probably offer less value to the company and tend to complain more when they have difficulties. There are quite a few of those as well. So as a successful entrepreneur, you need to know about yourself and know how to manage your relationship with your investors, and that's very important.
Okay, yeah, it's a different competence, right? I would say that you have to build up. Cool. There's a question from Rashid. Yeah, if not answered before, is there a cooperation among Kazakhstani incubators and accelerators and international ones when it comes to investment opportunities? I will be happy to answer, but yeah, this is the chat with you. So.
I think you know more than me about this. I think you can answer this question, huh?
Okay, yeah. So in terms of what the collaboration is happening, since we are one of the leading accelerators, we have been exist for 9 years. I mean, the most. So yeah, there is cooperation and collaboration. As an examples, there are several VC funds, as the fund Arsalan is representing. I mean, this is not the incubator international one, but through this network, when you know the fund always can connect you to other incubators abroad. But in terms of specifically the incubators, there's an examples like the Seed Stars, it's a Sweden accelerator. They also have their branch here. So this is the connection if you would love to expand to Europe, or specifically if you're the fintech. The Tech Stars, they also do the startup weekends, startup weeks, but they have accelerators, and they're really focused on Central Asia. So and others. So you can find out, it's online. I know specifically, since I'm also working in AIFC, the fintech hub. If you're doing some kind of insurance, retail, e-commerce, or fintech, you can basically go to such a platforms as Fintech Hub, and they can connect you to. There's a great accelerators in Europe, as an example. Again, it's called Startup Wise Guys or Startup Bootcamp. There's also connection with Singapore. we as a MOST actually organized the Arsalan 50. So it's one of the biggest accelerators in Singapore. So there's a bridge between us and there. So yeah, there's a lot of connections. Just make the research or contact us afterwards so we can share it with you. Okay. The next one, I think that we somehow covered it, but anyway, maybe Arsalan, you can, if you'd like to add something. We have a small market, only 18 million people with and customers. What the local Kazakh startups should do? I don't know.
Well, I think, yeah, like you said, we kind of cover that, but you're right. I think local staff should first to make sure that the product, like you say earlier, that to be successful in the local markets, and from there you can expand beyond Kazakhstan to regional countries if you don't. But my experience that many of the Kazakh entrepreneurs, they want to expand immediately to larger market like Indonesia, or maybe naturally extension would be Russia and other Russian-speaking countries. So whatever you want to do here, you need to already have an idea that you want to export your service or products, and that is something that should be in your business model in the first place. But if you don't think that's possible, like Aline was saying earlier, that there might be some entrepreneurs, they just want to jump to a new market immediately without wasting their time here in Kazakhstan. Again, to go to another country is not going to another neighborhood, right? It requires significant amounts of preparation and study before you go to a country like Thailand or Indonesia. You know, it's like literally you are going from one country to another in different time zone and plus culture differences. Just because you all look alike does not make you think the culture is the same. You know, so lots of homework to make sure you have contact there and things like that. But it all depends on the product itself. You know, what you are making, but always keep export business model in your mind before you think about doing something here.
Okay, thanks. Good. I think we're coming to the end. So here's I don't know if any other questions will be there. Please write it down. But I see there is a last one in the list. Arsalan, so here's a question from Shurigul. What if I have a full control over my company? So the entrepreneur is running the company, but the VC owns 70% of it. So I assume there was a deal when the VC took 70%. And it was agreed at the beginning already when the business was not making anything. So she gave 70%, but now the business is growing. Is there any way to change it? If so, how should I proceed? I assume there's how to decrease the. Oops.
Yeah, well, the thing is that if you don't like the 70% ownership, in most cases, it depends on your agreement with the entrepreneur, with the investor, is that you can buy back your shares. So if you have enough capital that can help you to buy back the share, then that's one way to do it, because it happened to me before that entrepreneurs feel that they grow the company so much that they don't want to, and they want to buy back the shares. So in our agreement with them is that they can buy back the shares, but they need to pay extra, 50% of the market price. If they agree with that, then they can buy back some shares and reduce my ownership to less than 70%. So I don't know in this person's particular scenario whether or not that's possible or not. If that's possible, you need to renegotiate with your investor if that can be done. At the end of the day, investor will be flexible because they don't want to lose entrepreneurs in the process, because at the end of the day, investors don't want to manage the company. They don't want to run the company, even though they own 70%. So there's always room for negotiations, because otherwise there's no incentive for you to keep working in the same company. So go back to the drawing table, talk to your investor, say, I'd like to buy back some shares, and if it's possible.
Okay, yeah, good advice. Yeah, thanks so much. Any other questions, guys? Any other questions? I know there is a lunchtime actually now, so no. You know what? Yeah, thanks a lot. I have an idea, since it's basically the first session with our international experts. I would love to ask, maybe if possible, to turn on the camera so we can make this screenshot. So I would love to ask my colleagues to make this a memorable moment with Arsalan. Is it possible? So people will turn on the cameras and we can make the screenshot. Today it's kind of the same photos from any event. It's always Zoom screenshot. It depends on the number of people only, but that's it. Yeah, cool. Thanks a lot. Since I'm from the phone, yeah, just 1 minute. It doesn't matter where you are, but since you are with us, it's cool. Can you guys? We didn't have a chance to make a screen. Aisu, Elmira, Shadigul, I don't know. Who else? Almagul, Tanya, Sergey. I don't know, maybe you're already on the lunchtime. Cool, but okay, somehow. Anyway.
Можно прямо с кофе сфотографироваться.
Yeah, I mean, I personally can say that sometimes I'm driving and participating in this kind of polls. It's kind of chaotic. Really? Yeah, our guy Anwar is going somewhere. Okay, anyway, yeah, my colleague already did. Thanks a lot. I don't see any other questions. I don't know, Arsalan, any other final thoughts, if you have?
No, I think Kazakhstan has a lot of opportunity, and the people here are very entrepreneurs and hardworking. I think for us and for me personally, I think there's many opportunities for me to get involved. But it's a lot of culture, entrepreneurial culture need to be educated to some extent. So we can work together on that part and see how we can to help the entrepreneurs here in Kazakhstan, basically. And feel free, if someone need my contact, you can just share that my contact information with them. I can have a offline discussion with them if they need to. Yeah.
Preserving the safe distance, right? Okay, and the masks.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. It was really insightful and productive. Yeah, okay. I know we are pretty open with any ways of contacting you. So thanks a lot, guys. And sure. See you on our next section with AJ and Alina today. Thanks a lot, Arsalan, and everyone's bye-bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Дорогие участники, хочу рассказать вам, какая будет следующая сессия и кто у нас будет выступать. Одну секундочку. Хотела поставить вам картинку.
Динара, можно уточню, ты запись, да, закроешь, чтобы я сейчас спокойно мог выйти?
Да.
Ну, чтобы эту сессию сохранить, да?
Да.
Супер.